Hello, my name is Kendra. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be sharing a nice flow that will focus on opening up the hips and then some core stability. If you have it, a band, a belt, something like that would be useful, as well as some blocks. If you don't have them, no big deal. And just find yourself in a comfortable seat. Finding the sit bones connected to the ground. You may have to move some flesh around. Hands can just sit comfortably on the knees. Go ahead and take the shoulders up and then back and then down. Just see how that feels. Lengthening the spine on your in-breath. The head should be directly over the spine and over the tailbone. Take a couple breaths here and just see how this feels. You could also feel like you have an imaginary string just coming out straight out of the top of your head, lining you up. And I like to do a couple movements each day just to start off my practice. So taking the right ear to the right shoulder, and then breathing in as you center. Left ear, left shoulder, and breathing into center. So doing this a couple times on each side. And returning the head to neutral, allowing the chin to go down towards the chest and then circling from one ear to the other. Half circles here. To whatever extent it feels good to you. And if you would like to open it up and do full head circles here, go ahead and do that. Maybe 2 times one way, and then returning to center and then going the opposite way. 2 times there, and returning to center. Just know that everything that I offer to you today is just a suggestion. I really recommend you listening to your body, what feels good to you. And if you need to make any modifications, I encourage you to do so. Next, on the in-breath, taking the shoulders up to the ears and then down and back on the out-breath. So do a couple shoulder rolls here. If it feels good to you, you can place the fingertips on the shoulders and get the arms moving as well. One more time here, and then we'll switch directions. Last time, and then just relaxing the shoulders down and back. Taking a breath here. And releasing the breath. The next breath, we're just going to bring both arms above the head and releasing down to your sides. And again. And release. And this time, you're going to take the left hand and grab the right wrist and just lean over, opening the right side of the body. And take a couple breaths here. Out breath, bringing both arms down. And again, just breathing in, hands above the head, exhaling down to the side. As you breathe in, you lengthen. And then right hand grabs the left wrist this time. And opening that left side of the body. And releasing down. Placing the hands again on your knees if that feels comfortable to you. We're going to start going in one direction and we're going to make the smallest little circles with our body. And as we continue on, we're just going to slowly make the circles bigger and bigger. Whatever extent feels good to you. I like to make mine nice and deep. This feels good on my lower back, but you might find something that works better for you. And slowly start to make your circle smaller. Until you feel like you're barely making any kind of movement. And then find your neutral spine, taking a breath here. And finding just the smallest movement in the opposite direction. And again, slowly making that circle bigger and bigger. Finding smaller circles here. Until you've come back to a nice neutral spine. Again, a breath here. We're going to turn to our sides, allowing our feet to go out long in front of us. And then just laying back, taking the arms above the head, getting a nice big stretch here. Maybe you want to twist your ankles a little bit in circles. Any movement that feels good here, go ahead and explore that. Breathing in anything that will support you for your practice today. And on the exhale, letting go of anything that is not bringing you joy. On your next in-breath, hugging the knees into the chest, and then just rocking around here, seeing what feels good. I like to rock side to side. Maybe you taking the knees and making a nice big circle, going each way. Any kind of movement that your body's seeking right now. And eventually allowing the feet to find the ground. Taking the arms out to a T. Again, taking a breath. On the next out breath, allowing both of the knees to drop over to the left side. Gaze looks over the right shoulder. The knees are dropping over to the left side. Gaze looks over the right shoulder. As you breathe in here, lengthen the spine. And on the exhale, maybe finding a little bit more of a twist. One more breath here. And on the next in-breath, bringing both of the knees back up to the center. Taking a breath here before we go over to the other side. On your next exhale, dropping the knees over to the right side. Gaze goes over the left shoulder. A couple breaths here. In breath, you're lengthening the spine. Out breath, you're finding a little bit more of that twist. If you find that your left shoulder is coming off of the mat, you can always add a block there, or you can place a block underneath the knees if that feels good as well. On the next in-breath, bringing both knees up to the center. Here we're going to raise our feet off of the ground, and we're going to start to do some core activation. So here we're going to allow the knees to go from side to side. If this is a little much for you, you can always allow your toes to be on the ground and just allow the legs to go side to side that way as well. And if you want to add on to this, make it a little more challenging, you can straighten the legs and then taking the legs side to side. Do a couple more on each side here. Back down to the ground. Bringing the knees into the chest again, and then just taking some movement here. Perhaps extending one leg out straight as the other one's bent into the chest. And switching that up. Bringing both knees back into the chest. Allowing the feet to find the ground. Placing the hands on the ground next to you. I'm going to just slowly walk the feet towards your sit bones. And on your next in-breath, pushing through the hips up into a bridge. So here, we're going to hold it for a count of 10. You can clasp your fingers together underneath you in a fist. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Raising the hips up again, and then lowering. We'll do this for a count of 15. 2, 3, allow you to go at your own pace. And if you would like to add some movement with the arms in, you can do that as well. In breath, the hips go up, arms go above the head, and exhaling down. One more here. And release. Allowing the legs to go long for a moment here. Maybe giving them a little shake and a wiggle. In breath, stretching the arms above the head. And out breath, bringing the knees into the chest. And here, if you can kind of rock and roll your way up to a seated position, tucking your feet underneath you, moving on to all fours in a tabletop position. Bringing the toes together at the back of the mat, widening the legs, and then sitting back on your feet into your child's pose. Bringing the arms out in front of you, stretching them out as far as they can go, and the forehead to the mat. If the forehead is not finding the mat, you can bring a block in and place the forehead on the block. And if you don't have a block, you can just stack either your arms on top of each other or your wrists on top of each other. At any time during your practice today, I encourage you to find a child's pose if another pose is not feeling good for you. We're going to take a couple breaths here. Now is a time to set an intention for your practice. Maybe that's just thanking yourself for showing up. Maybe it's finding ease within these positions. Two more breaths here. On your next in-breath, raising up to all fours. Stacking your shoulders over your wrists and your hips over your knees. We're slowly going to just start taking some cat-cows here. On the in-breath, you're going to drop the belly down, gaze goes up, sit bones go up. And on the exhale, you're going to gaze goes back towards the belly button, curving the back, tucking the tail under. And in breath, gaze goes up, tailbone goes up. On the exhale, curling under, gaze looking at the belly button. Moving at whatever pace feels good to you here. And maybe it will feel good to you to take some other kinds of movements. So maybe dropping back and then forward. Taking the hips from side to side. Any movement here that feels good. Stabilizing the hands into the ground, we're going to move into some fire hydrants here. Keeping the hands straight. You can have a slight bend in the elbows. We're going to start on the left side and we're going to do a count of 10. So here you're just going to lift the leg up and then return. Stabilize through the core and through the hands, and then moving on to the right side. And releasing down into a child's pose once you have found 10 on each side. I invite you to rock your head side to side, giving the forehead a little massage here. On the next in-breath, returning to your tabletop, taking a round of cat-cow. Stabilizing through your hands, tucking the toes under behind you, and just lifting the knees off the ground about 2 inches. Holding here. Release. Taking any movement that feels good to you, and we'll do that one more time. Lifting up, belly button is in, kind of sucked in towards the spine, and release. Again, taking some movement, maybe side to side here. Keeping those toes tucked. You're going to spread your fingers wide here. Pressing through the hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Pedaling out the legs from side to side. If you're anything like me, your legs are extremely tight. And so pedaling them out on each side feels really good right here. Also, if you're in just a downward dog position, allowing the knees to be as bent as they need to be here if you're not pedaling them out. Find what feels good to you. And here, maybe walk the hands up slightly. On the in-breath, moving into a plank position. We're going to hold for a couple seconds here. On your next out-breath, moving back into your downward facing dog. Allowing to pedal out the legs here. Moving with the breath here, we're going to go in-breath, plank, out-breath, downward facing dog. Making any necessary adjustments for the hands or the feet as you move through this. one more time forward into your plank, and now hold for a count of 30. And release. Go ahead and bring your knees down to the mat. If you want to move through a couple cat-cows here, you can, or you can bring your toes together, knees out wide, and go into your child's pose here. Next in-breath, returning to your tabletop position here. Taking a couple rounds of your cat-cow. Bringing the right foot in between the hands here, walking it forward, and then just allowing yourself to slowly ease into this lunge. Keeping the fingertips on the ground if you would like. This is where a block may come in handy on both sides. Feels good to you. You can have a block on each side, or bringing the hands above the head, maybe a slight back bend here. Bring the hands out to the side, cactus or goalpost arms. Or I personally like to interlace my fingers behind my back and open up my chest. Take a couple breaths here. Bringing the hands to the inside of that right foot, walking that right foot over to the side of the mat. We're going to come into our lizard pose. So here, hands can be directly underneath you, and then the foot, if you can get the whole entire foot planted on the ground, that's great. This is a chest opening, so if you can open the chest here. And there are options here for the block as well. So if you'd like to try to go down onto the forearms with continuing to have the gaze forward, that's an option with or without the block. I'm going to continue to stay up on my hands here. If you've taken the option to go down onto the forearms, slowly bring yourself back up onto your hands. And from here, we're just gonna take the right hand and put it on the outside of that foot and slowly bring that foot into the center. Again, if this feels good to have blocks, you can do that on each side. And then from here, we're gonna slowly bring the hips back, peeling the toes up off of the ground into a half split. Here you can allow your head to relax. Crown of the head's just kind of floating there. Being aware of your shoulders, trying to have them down away from the ears. And slowly walking the fingertips back up to the top of the mat, bringing that right leg back into your tabletop position, and a round of cat-cows here as we prepare for the other side. Here we'll bring the left foot in between the hands and slowly walk that foot forward. From here, in this low lunge, you have an option to keep the hands on the ground. Maybe you find your way to your knee. Any of the variations with the arms in the air, or interlacing fingers behind the back. A few more breaths here. Really getting a nice chest opening practice. And allowing the hands to find their way to the inside of this left foot here. Option to stay up on the hands. This is the lizard position. If it feels good to you, you can drop down onto the forearms. You may find that one side is a little bit easier than the other. Taken the option to go down to your forearms, start making your way back up to your hands. Bringing the left hand on the outside of the foot and start walking the foot into the center here. And then slowly walking the hands back as you peel up the toe and find this half split position. Relaxing the shoulders, allowing the head to hang here. Slowly walking the fingers up to the top towards the mat and bringing that foot back. And here, allowing yourself to find your child's pose just for a moment. In breath, finding yourself on all fours. A round of cat-cow here. Tucking the toes under, pressing the hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Here we're going to go through our series from our downward facing dog. In breath, moving into a plank. We'll do this a couple times. Out breath, pressing the hips up and back. The next time you're in your plank, go ahead and find yourself here. We're going to add a march. Just taking each leg up and down to a count of 30. come to the mat, toes together, knees spread apart, finding that child's pose. Pressing yourself back up onto all fours, tucking the toes under here, taking the right foot up in the air. If it feels good, you can even open the hip, bending the knee here. Straightening it back out behind you and bringing the knee to the right elbow, foot goes behind the left hand, and making your way into your pigeon pose here. Couple options. You could stay up on your hands if that feels good, or bringing it down to your forearms. And then another option is stretching the hands in front of you. Whatever feels most comfortable to you. Taking a couple breaths here. Returning to the hands, tucking that back toe under, bringing the right foot back up into the sky, and returning it down to the ground. Here, if you're in your downward facing dog, allowing yourself to pedal out your legs as we prepare for the other side. In breath, bringing the left leg above the head. Left knee comes to left elbow, and then the foot over by the right hand. Setting yourself up for your pigeon. Kind of taking whatever movements you need to do to get into this. And slowly finding which position works best for you. Allowing yourself to feel that stretch. Slowly start to unwind out of it. Going back up to the hands. Tucking the right toe under. And bringing that left leg up into the air. And then back down into your downward facing dog. Walking it out here for a moment. Knees returning to the mat, finding your child's pose. On your next in-breath from your child's pose, you're just going to slide and slither your way forward. So then you're on your belly on the mat. Here we're just going to place our hands in front of us. Fingertips are nice and wide. Your toes are pointed together behind you. Your elbows are underneath your shoulders. And here you're in your Sphinx pose. Feel that a little bit in your back. Just allowing the chest to open, gaze looking forward. Slightly pulling yourself on your fingertips forward. And releasing all the way down to the mat, allowing yourself just a little break here. Finding the hands underneath the shoulders this time. Pressing yourself up. This time we're going into a baby cobra. From here, you may be able to pick your hands up off of the ground. And you're using a lot of your core muscles to stabilize you. And release. Bring a cheek to the mat. I'm going to do that one more time here. In breath into your baby cobra. And release. From here we're going to move into a Superman hold. So bringing the hands out straight in front of you. There's a couple variations you can do here. Do whatever feels good. Maybe you just do raising the front part of your body. Or maybe you're able to raise your feet and your hands at the same time. And here we're just going to count to 30. And release. Go ahead and just take a breath here. On the next in-breath, moving up into your tabletop. We're going to move into a different version of your child's pose. So go ahead and sit back on your feet, bringing the forehead down to the mat, but allowing your hands to go back towards your feet. This just allows a little bit more opening up in that lower back. The next in-breath, moving into your tabletop. Again, a round of cat-cows if that feels good for you. So just coming to a seat here, bringing the feet in front of you to whatever extent feels good to you. We're going to go into the star pose. In breath, bringing the hands above the head. Out breath, hands come over the tops of the feet. If it's possible, your elbows will be over your shins, and if someone was looking at you from above, you would look like a 6-pointed star. Two more breaths here. Next in-breath, raising the hands up, taking the feet out long in front of you. Here's where you might want to have a band with you. We're going to bring ourselves back down onto our backs here. We're going to draw one leg into the chest. Hold it here for a moment. And then you can either take your hands behind your leg and allow it to go straight up into the air. If you have a band, you can wrap it around your foot and then also just hold on to that. Your opposite leg that's on the ground can either be straight or it can be bent. So find which feels best to you. release this foot down to the ground. Allow yourself to stretch out here for a moment. And then bringing the opposite knee into the chest here. If you have a band, you can wrap it around your foot. Otherwise, you can interlace your fingers behind the back of your leg and allow it to go straight up into the air. I like to make some movement with my ankle here. Releasing that leg down to the ground. Here we're gonna do a little bit of rocking and rolling so you can come up to a slightly seated position. From here we're just gonna do some twists. And release. Allowing yourself to come back down to the ground here. Drawing the knees into the chest, taking a rock side to side or back and forth. Toes of the feet finding the ground here. Allowing the right leg to cross over the left, arms out to a T, and then going into our spinal twist. So this is just going to make it a little bit more intense. So when you drop the legs over to the left side, if that doesn't feel good to you, go ahead and unwrap them and just have them stacked on top of each other like we did earlier. Gaze goes over the right shoulder. On the inhale, you're lengthening the spine, and on the exhale, you're finding a little bit more of that twist. On the next in-breath, bringing both of the legs up, allowing them to uncross here, taking a moment, taking a breath, crossing the left leg over the right, knees dropping over to the right side, gaze going over the left shoulder. The in-breath, bringing both of the legs back up to the center, unwinding them. Bringing the knees in, taking some movement here, side to side. Perhaps you want to grab your toes on each side and move into a happy baby. Or you can just allow your legs to kind of do whatever you want. Maybe extending each side. Rolling around a little bit. Feeling that massage in the lower back here. If there's any other movement that you'd like to take, maybe you want to add on some more of those windshield wipers. maybe some more core. Go ahead and do that. Or you can find your legs coming down to the ground, extending long and finding yourself in your Shavasana pose for our final resting position. Hands can be on the stomach or by your sides. Big toes can fall outward. And if this isn't comfortable for you, you can keep the legs bent, or you can move over to your stomach. Taking a couple breaths here. Bringing awareness to the top of the head, to the eyes, to the jaw, and the mouth, and releasing any tension there. Slowly working your way to the neck, drawing attention to the shoulders, to the upper arms, and releasing. Bringing awareness to the forearms, and to the palms, to the pinky, the ring finger, the middle finger, index, and thumb. Without much movement, bringing attention, and then releasing. Bringing awareness to the lower back, to your sit bones, to your thighs, and release. Awareness to your knees, your shins, and your calves. And finding some relaxation. Bringing awareness to the ankles, the heels, the foot, and each one of the toes. And release. Allowing the whole body to find calmness, to find ease, allowing the whole body to release. slowly starting to bring awareness back to your breath. Wiggling the fingers and toes. Next inhale, bringing the arms above the body, stretching out. And on the next exhale, bringing the knees into the chest. Taking a moment here. And slowly making your way over to your side. And taking as much time as you need. Using that hand to press yourself up to a seated position. Allowing the head to come last. Taking a couple breaths in and out here. Thank you for showing up today and practicing with me. I'm going to close our practice with the universal sound of Om, a universal vibration connecting all beings. You can join me if you're comfortable. I'm going to be exhaling completely. Inhaling fully. All is within. Be receptive. Thank you.